Hello everyone, welcome to another GRIMGAR video. Today's video we're going to talk about Yume if she was a level 1 DND character. And yes, I am aware I'm not using my VTuber today. I'm sorry about that. Unfortunately, the app that I use, Reality, kind of signed me out and I have to sign back in. And apparently I lost all the information for the character. It's going to take me a little bit to actually have time to make the character again, which honestly is not going to take that long. But I don't have time right now to remake it because I have to get this recording out and everything. So we're going to focus on getting the video out first before I make the model again. Next video I'll have my model. But for now, let's focus on making Yume into a D&D character. If you enjoy this video, please like, share, subscribe, all that stuff, and let me know what you guys think about the D&D stats that I give Yume at the end of the video. If you are curious on how I am getting these stats for these characters and the descriptions for these stats, I have talked about it in past videos, so check out the Ronta stat video to figure out exactly what the requirements are for each individual stats. For now, I'm going to be reading off stats from DMing with Charisma to actually know what the exact stats are for individual levels of strength, dexterity, constitution, wisdom, intelligence, and charisma. Also keep in mind that Yume is one of the characters that is shown to actually be a person that is not suited for her class, funny enough, at least early on. And the only reason she becomes a hunter is because, well, she wants to get one of them doggies. Like, she literally becomes a hunter because she wants to get a wolf puppy. That's literally the only reason. So early on in GRIMGAR, she's actually really bad at shooting and being a hunter in general. At least that's what Hadahiro and the rest of his party think early on, but you start to realize that Yume is actually very useful as a hunter in terms of, survivability. She's really good at finding food, keeping people alive, knowing about the terrain, a bunch of stuff like that, honestly. She's only really bad at shooting, and I will have to actually address that in the video because it is not actually a dexterity situation, which I'll explain when we get to the dexterity, but it's more of a lack of focus. And I should also mention that Yume is going to be one of the very first characters in this video series where I don't just take from the first volume. I do have to take information from future volumes that talk about her earlier in the story. So for example, there is a bonus volume where it's Yume's perspective while she's being trained to be a huntress. I'm going to be taking information from that light novel. The reason I'm doing this is because Yume's not focused that much in volume 1. She does have some feats, but there is not a lot of heavy focus on her, Chihiro, and Moguzu in the first volume, but they still have some stuff in there that I can use. That being said, let's begin with strength. Flat out, Hadahiro has stated that Yume, in terms of physical strength, is only second to Moguzu in their party. When Moguzu passes away, he flat out states that the only one who could replace him as a warrior would be Yume, so he even thinks about having Yume change from a hunter to a warrior to replace Moguzu as a frontline tank. The only reason that Hadahiro does not make her turn into a warrior specifically because he feels bad for forcing her to play a role that she didn't want to play to begin with. Yume has also been stated multiple times throughout the light novel to have the most physically fit body in their party. Granted, this is coming from Ronta, so it's more of a perverted statement, but it is actually true. Yume is physically athletic as fuck and is literally the most physically strong person in their party besides Moguzu, and I will say Kuzuku as well. And funny enough, DMing with Charisma describes 14 to 15 as visibly tone, throws small objects for long distances. And pretty much anyone who talks about Yume's body, which does sound kind of creepy when I say it out loud, does describe her as very tone and physically fit. And quite honestly, I think I would give Yume a 14 in this, because quite frankly, this actually fits her to a T. Next, let's talk about dexterity, which is going to be the most debated one of them all. And I do not blame anyone for actually debating me in the comments about this one because it is kind of very ambiguous with the description of dexterity. But let's get into it. As a lot of you know, Yume's aim with a bow is absolutely trash. So you would think that I would give her a very low dexterity level. The problem is her aim is not a result of bad dexterity. It is explained in volume 14 plus by Yume's teacher that her lack of aim seems to be a focusing problem, not a dexterity problem. To explain things simply, she cannot focus on something very far away because she gets distracted by other things around it. However, as we have seen in the anime and the light novel and the manga, when she is in close range of an enemy, she focuses completely on the enemy. And this is why she's much better at close range. And I am actually willing to give her a 15 in dexterity because in volume 1, she actually dodges crossbow bolts when she jumps out to fight some goblins. The description for a 15 in dexterity says, can catch or dodge a medium speed surprise projectile. And also by the end of volume 1, her arrows are hitting things more consistently, apparently. I don't know how true and accurate this actually is, however. So I personally am willing to give Yume a 15 in dexterity. If I wanted to be mean, maybe a 14, but I think 15 is actually pretty fair. Next, we're gonna talk about constitution for Yume. And funny enough, Yume is actually pretty tough. In the first volume, Yume does take a couple hits from goblins when they decide to jump the armored gob and the hobgoblin. She has a cut on her arm, and Minato asks her to come over so he can heal it. But Yume straight up says that she can wait to be healed. The cuts aren't that bad. While the majority of the party, every time they take small cuts, they ask him to heal the wounds for them. Yume's willing to actually kind of just bear with it for a while because they're not really all that bad. And aside from Ranta, Yume is one of the few people that can probably keep going and fighting goblins for a little while. And I don't think she's as durable or as like energetic as Ranta or Moguzu, but she's definitely competing with them, if I'm being completely honest. Unfortunately, there aren't very many feats in the first volume aside from her taking some damage from goblins and continuously fighting and not looking as winded as the other party members. So I can't give her that much higher of a score other than maybe 12 or 13, which 12 and 13 is can take a few hits before being knocked unconscious, which as far as I'm concerned, that does actually describe Yume pretty well. And now we're gonna talk about Yume's intelligence.
You're a fucking idiot.
Yume is undeniably, in terms of intelligence, the dumbest member of Haru's party. She's actually most likely dumber than Ranta. Let's start at intelligence 6 to 7, which is very low. Often misuses and mispronounces words. Aside from me feeling very offended that also describes someone with dyslexia, that's 100% Yume as well. So I'm just gonna flat out just give her a 6 in intelligence because it's pretty bad. And I can't give Yume above a 6 or 7 because 8 to 9 also describes Yume. 8 to 9 has trouble following trains of thought. Forgets most unimportant thing. Every single time someone corrects Yume, she immediately forgets. Every single time the POV switches to Yume, her thoughts are almost always a jumbled mess. So I think giving her a 6 is absolutely fair. And quite frankly, anything above that doesn't actually quite sound like her. And now for a wisdom for Yume, which, well, it's not much better than her intelligence. Again, we're starting at level 6 or 7 of wisdom, and we'll decide whether we go up or down in a sec. Level 6 or 7 of wisdom is often fails to exert common sense. That's definitely Yume, 100%. 100% Yume. Yep, 100%. But I would personally argue that 4 and 5 describe her a little better as well. Seemingly incapable of forethought. Yume very, very rarely ever actually thinks about her actions. She goes in very quickly without really thinking. And while technically, yes, a lot of the time she does this in the first volume, it does still go her way, which she's very lucky about that. Later on in Grimgar's story, she still continues to do this quite often. So personally, at best, I can give her a 6, but I think I'm willing to actually give her a 5 in wisdom, and I think that's actually very fair for her. And let's talk about Yume's charisma now. I actually don't 100% know what to give her here, because Yume doesn't have bad charisma technically. People do like her quite often. Starting at 10 to 11, capable of polite conversations, which she absolutely 100% is. And I would be willing to say that she is at the very least in the description of 12 and 13, mildly interesting. Knows what to say to the right people. That last part, however, I don't think I can agree with because Yume doesn't always know what to say to people, especially in the first volume. By the way that the narrative treats Yume, I can at the very least say that a lot of people do find her interesting, only because she's so damn different. She's not much at filtering her words, so it makes her come off more interesting than other people. But since the description only describes her about halfway, I'll just give her a 12 and leave it at that. But this is Yume's current character sheet. Let me know what you guys think about her character sheet in the comments. Let me know if you agree, if you disagree, and let me know what other characters you guys want me to talk about next in the poll that I will be putting up today, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.